What's in an animal? You know, a lot of times in third world countries you see animals everywhere. I remember one time coming back from an airport and they asked me, have you been in the proximity of animals? And everyone who was going through the line was saying no, 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 no. And I thought, man, what a bunch of liars. You can't go to that country without being in the proximity of animals. They're everywhere, but what can you get from them? Well, first of all, hydatid disease, especially dogs, but any carnivore or any omnivore can carry hydatid disease. And what that is those worms that insist in your muscles and also in your brain. And there are particular types of hydatid disease that can become blood-borne, they can disseminate, and you can die from that, particularly Echinococcus multiocularis. I've got a picture here. This was in Haiti, and the tent that you see is the check-in tent for our clinic, and you see this dog hanging around with all these big cysts all over his back. That dog has hydatid disease. That dog can lick you and make you sick. You need to stay away from animals. And then zoonosis in general. Lots of different diseases that animals have can be transmitted to humans, including the Black Plague, which comes from fleas that are on rats or any other animal. So anytime you get a flea bite, you can get the Black Plague. Now the pneumonic plague is the respiratory-borne form of that. You get that again from a cough, but you can get the plague from a flea bite and you get the flea from an animal. Rabies. Rabies is very common in many third world countries, and rabies we consider a treatable thing here in the United States. If you get bitten, you go and take prophylaxis. Problem with that is in most third world countries that's not available. So if you get a bite that is suspicious for rabies and you need prophylaxis, you're going to have to make arrangements to evacuate to the United States to get the prophylaxis you need. Very important that you stay away from any animal, because any animal could potentially be rabid. And rabies does not show up in the animal initially. They're contagious for several days before they actually show any symptoms. So if you say, well, I'm not going to get around any animal that looks sick, realize that an animal can be rabid without looking sick. And even a lick, if you have an open wound, can give you rabies. Conclusion then, stay away from unknown animals. If you're not familiar with the animal, if it's not somebody's household pet, stay away from them. And every time you touch an animal, even if it is someone's household pet, wash your hands, clean yourself up, and if you get a bite, realize that you may need to come back to the States for treatment. If you're going to go on a lot of mission trips, or you are going to be doing something that involves handling a lot of animals, it might be wise to get immunized for rabies before you travel. What's in the sun? You know, everybody loves the sun and everyone likes to get out in it, but the tropical sun is not the same as the sun you're used to. When you're in a tropical country, the sun rays are much more direct, and so you get sun damage much more quickly. The first thing that can happen, obviously, in a tropical environment is heat exhaustion or heat stroke. You need to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. You need to make sure that you protect yourself from the sun. Get in the shade, get cool. If you begin to notice signs of heat stroke or heat exhaustion, and you need to immediately get rest, get shade, drink plenty of fluids with some salt in it, like oral rehydration salt. Next thing you can get from the sun is simply sunburn. It never ceases to amaze me how people, when they get in a hot environment, the first thing they want to do is roll up their sleeves and turn up their pants and get as much sun as they can. Research indicates that you'll be much cooler in long-sleeved cotton clothing that covers your body and protects you from the sun, and you're a lot less likely to get sunburn. If you're from North America, you will find that you sunburn about twice as quickly in an equatorial country as you're used to sunburning here. So you say, oh, well, I've got a good tan, I don't have to worry about the sun. Once you get down on the equator, you're going to sunburn more quickly, and we don't need to be treating people for sunburn. It'll make you miserable, and it'll use up the resources that we have to treat others. And finally, just an important addition, malignant melanoma. Australia has the world's highest rate of malignant melanoma. Something like 1 in 11 people in Australia develop malignant melanoma in their life. Well, the reason for that is because there are a bunch of people of Northern European descent who are living right down on the equator. And the more sun exposure you have in your life, and particularly the number of severe sunburns that you get in your life, the higher your chances of getting malignant melanoma. So I assume that many of you who are listening to this lecture are, like myself, of Northern European descent, and you're going to go to an equatorial country. You need to protect yourself from sunburn. You need to use sunscreen and keep yourself covered. Finally, at the conclusion of this lecture, I want to mention 2 places that you should visit before you visit any third world country. The first place you should visit is cdc.gov/travel on the internet. This is the Center for Disease Control website. We do not consider this website to be the be-all end-all. We do not consider them to be authoritative, but it's a very good resource that lists many of the things that you might encounter in the country that you're going to. It would be a good idea to just review what cdc.gov/travel has to say about the country you're going to. And then this is very important. You need to visit your local doctor. Tell them where they're going. Tell them you're going to need prophylaxis for malaria. You're going to need potential treatment for traveler's diarrhea. And let your doctor prescribe those medicines for you. They know your health history, and they're the ones who are most likely to be able to prescribe that medicine in such a way that it will work well for you. It would also be a good idea when you return to visit your doctor and let them know what you've encountered, because it may affect your health down the line. This will be the end of the general protection lecture.